Hi, everybody. It's Will NY4. I am happy to be with you today with the beginnings of a new series on my first love in Starfield, which is building factory systems for profit and XP. Now, over the past month or so, I've done a lot of videos, which some of you I'm sure followed, and I think some of you appreciated, on how to fix some of the problems with some of the mods, particularly the Star UI mods. And that has gotten a very good reception, and the author of those mods, I'm happy to tell you, if you don't know, is returned, and they are now completely up to date. I also spent some time in a few videos on exploring how the differences in time in Starfield affect production. But today, I'm here back. I've had to go back and find a save from basically 100 levels ago to explore a whole new area for me in my videos with you guys. So guys, those of you who've been following my videos on my channel know that I have a major obsession with how to find ways to take the, let's say, to be generous, the only half thought through manufacturing systems in Starfield and actually modify them so that they actually can work. But of course, the weird thing about all this is that the objects or the hard goods that we make, we can sell, but they have no use in the game other than to build more outposts. You can carry as much zero wire as you want, but it's not going to help you when you hit a spacer station or you want to romance a partner. They're not personal in any way. Yet the items that we use every day, pharmaceuticals and weapons and spacesuit and food or chems, there is no parallel fabrication system. And when I thought about pharmaceuticals, I thought it's really impossible that Big Pharma still has an iron grip on competition 300 years in the future. But I wonder, why don't we have fabricators for all of these workbenches? Well, it turns out that we now have one for pharmaceuticals. So the mod is called Manufacturing Meds and Chems, and it was authored by Betamax 76. This is really a breakthrough from my point of view. Betamax uses the standard fabricators in Starfield, but reprograms them to make meds. He also created unique containers. You see them with yellow stripes stacked above the fabricators. They come in different sizes. And he made these containers because apparently Starfield doesn't consider large quantities of finished meds as gas, liquid, solid, or manufactured. So you need this special container in order to connect to the fabricator. So these are the 13 meds which you can make in Betamax's system using his fabricators that are all possible with materials that you can build within the game. Now, there are other choices there for more advanced aids and meds, but they require products that at the moment you cannot manufacture. So I'm not doing anything with them since I want a factory that can run 24 hours a day. So now I have the recipes and I have the fabricators. How am I going to organize this? Do I have one central location where all of the ingredients are brought in after I've scanned the animals and plants and assembled them at this central location? Or do I do a daisy chain and attempt to manufacture some of those meds out in the field where the greenhouses and husbandry facilities are located, and then ship those in by cargo links? My answer to that question is I was going to do all of them and compare them and show them to you. Well, then the second question to be answered is where to build it. Well, since I've decided I'm going to go with the central production system in my first video, And I already have done most of the work on Serpentis IV back in the old days, as I showed you at the very beginning. I decided that would be the place to build my central factory. So this is the plan that I came up with for the Serpentis IV factory. You can see most of the ingredients are available at this location. It's a fantastic planet. But the few of the ingredients are not here. Sedative biosuppressant, antimicrobial, and carboxylic acids. So I had to go elsewhere for those, and I chose Groombridge 1 and Marduk 4, primarily because of the best advantage of local to universal time, and also I didn't want to have a whole bunch of cargo links. Groombridge is only a ratio of 42 hours for one day, and Marduk is even. One day is one day. But I compensated for those kind of slow times by routing everything through Sirius 1, in which one day is equivalent to 97 days in universal time. And it also has helium, so that was all feasible. So there's only one cargo link coming back to Serpentis. One other thing I need to mention on the chart is you'll see that I have Domesticate all Flora indicated a couple times. And Domesticate all Flora is a mod which I will show you that allows you to go and scan any flora and make it domesticatable, which if you're involved in this, you'll see it's often frustrating. You arrive at a planet and the planet provides fiber, but you can't domesticate it, for example. So here on Marduk 4, that allowed me to harvest antimicrobial. Now on Serpentis 4, there is an option for both sealant and toxin to use greenhouses instead of animal husbandry. But because I'd already scanned the planet before there was such a thing as Domesticate all Flora, I couldn't convert it. Otherwise, I clearly would have always used a greenhouse instead of animal husbandry. But of course, the only downside to Serpentis is you can see that a day is only 14 hours universal time. And as we've discussed before, since all of the fabricators, greenhouses, husbandry all work on universal time schedule, it's extremely slow on Serpentis. But let's go take a look at the factory. So here's the system on Serpentis that I built. Starting with the cargo link here, you can see the 4 items that are coming in from Sirius 1. And then in the center, we have sealant and analgesic, and then 4 membranes, always running out of fiber. The fiber is being supplied by these greenhouses over here. It looks like I'm probably going to need another one. In the center are the greenhouses that actually produce other raw materials. These are metabolic agent, and here is structural. And then again, these are fiber producers for these animal husbandry. In the far back, I'm making fiber just on its own, because that is a required ingredient in some of the meds. Finally, over here, I forgot lone toxin. It's only used in one material, so one med, so I don't have more than one greenhouse. In all the way in the back, this area is where the chlorine is coming from, and we are on a biome division. So here I'm able to get argon. Both of them are required. Now, I think that it's pretty self-explanatory about the way the system works in its mechanics, but let's go down and look at it close up. Yep, here we are on the floor. You can see the fabricators lined up. These are the bins that are connected to the greenhouses and animal husbandry. You can see it's analgesic coming in. over in the distance, you can see there's a blue transfer container, and that is for the materials coming in from on the cargo links. It gets linked directly to the fabricators that require it. Here's fiber. We have a lot of fiber here. I need more of it out in the field, actually. I'm going to have to adjust that. But just to show you how these work, let's just go over to one of the fabricators. And this one is making a mobilizer that's sealant and structural. And it goes into its own little container here. There's 2,462 immobilizers. That all works the same for all the simple level or basic level fabricators. The one difference is over here on a compound. Let's look at this one. This is making analgesic poultice, and it requires heel paste, antibiotics, and bandages. No raw materials, only finished materials. So I had the decision to make. Do I pull them out of the inventory over there, or do I just make them all over again? And I decided to make them all over again. And here's antibiotics as an example. And that works the same for each of the compound and multiplex fabricators that you see here. Before we leave, I just wanted to show you one other thing. Here in the console for this fabricator, you see a bunch of other different, more advanced and more valuable items like, boy, I like to make some junk flush, but it requires a trauma pack. And in Starfield, there is no way that you can make a trauma pack. NeuroJack requires ReconStim and Synapse Alpha. There's no way to make those items. But the fact that they are included in the menu here gives me hope that Betamax may be able to come up with a way to do that. And I'm going to research to see if there are any other guys out there that have been able to conquer this particular problem. Before we wrap things up, I thought I'd give you guys some idea about how the animal husbandry and greenhouse construction works if you're not familiar with it. So here's what I've done. I've deleted one of my membrane animal husbandry, and I did that instead of building another one, is that when I tried to do that, I crashed the system. The number of objects that are here and the amount of processing that's going on and making all of these products and so on is overwhelming. It's really not necessary to do anything at this scale, but it made it easier to demonstrate, and also I'm extremely greedy, so we push things to the limit. But anyway, we would go into the builder's menu, go down to animal husbandry facility, and you don't have to do industrial, but you know, if you have the resources to do it, why not? So we place that there. Now we go back into the builders and go down to the greenhouse. And again, I'm going to do another industrial greenhouse to make fiber. Come on. That's required, as you can see here. But this one is built for spice, and this one is built for structural. So before we hook anything up to any of these greenhouses or animal husbandry, we have to get them programmed to the right material. So I'm going to go out of here, and now I'm going to take a nice walk through this beautiful planet. It really is a great planet. And look at these animals. They're just fabulous. And we'll go down here, and here's the one that I picked, but my console is on the other side. And here it is. Membrane. Notice that they are all require fiber and water on this planet. It's not always the case. Sometimes they use nutrient. But in any event, let's go over to the greenhouse we created. Program that for fiber. Okay. Now we have to go up and connect everything together. They both require water. I'm going to take it from this extractor. I don't dare build another one. Okay, both of them have water. Now that fiber gets connected to, actually it's connected to a common container, and then that gets connected to the greenhouse. You could do it any way you want it, of course. Now we would take the output of membrane and send it over to the output box. Now, of course, it's pretty good. It's got fiber and water, so it's producing membrane. Okay, let's go back to the factory floor. So let's talk about the positives first about Serpentis IV. It is absolutely unique in the Starfield universe in that with the manufacturing meds mod, you can actually build and mass produce 8 products just with the resources that are available on this one planet. There's nothing like it. I mean, you can do zero wire and adaptive frames and mag pressure tanks and so on, but you can't ever build more than maybe 1 or lucky 2 products in one location. Here you can do 8. And they're actually products that you can take out of those bins over there and sell for profit. Secondly, it is a beautiful planet with all these plants and animals. It's very friendly. There's that big hawk, the bird over there in the distance, but he just floats around. He never attacks. It's really great. And with 21 different plants and animals, you've got lots of stuff to explore and work with. So I heartily recommend this, particularly for beginners. Now, of course, the downside is all of this can be done with Xbox, but there are constraints. As I had mentioned earlier, the build budgets for your outposts in Xbox are very limited. So I don't think you're going to be able to build the number of greenhouses, husbandry, storage containers, fabricators, and so on in one location if you have an Xbox. But you could still build it in a couple locations, split up the materials so that you could make everything and then use a local cargo link to transport the finished materials from one location to another so you can collect them and sell them. You also don't need to have 4 different animal husbandry locations to make membrane, for example. You can certainly do with less, and just remember that you're going to have to do a lot of sleeping or a lot of other exploring, because with one day only being 14 hours here on Serpentis, you cannot get a lot of production with the materials that you are harvesting here, so to speak. So I think that basically ties up the advantages and disadvantages of Serpentis. But, I have to tell you guys, as much as I love being here, I really am looking for a really hardcore production that is all business, no plants and animals to play with and so on. And that's what I'm going to cover in my second video, in which we are going to go to a planet, the only planet that has a ratio of 1 to 100. That is 1 hour of local time in that planet is 100 hours universal time. And it also has helium, which is the key to having a centralized system, but using cargo links. So I'll see you in video 2. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you there.